Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me in just a moment will be BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo. But before I bring in those two scholarly gentlemen, a reminder, Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game and get $200 in bonus bets. You must be 21 or older. The offer is available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia in the U.S. Gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And as always, gamble responsibly. BJ and Anthony, let's get this thing started. We are firmly in the deep end of the pool of this Premier League season. And we'll start with one of the title contenders, Arsenal. Scrappy little Arsenal, BJ.
Back.
Scrappy little Arsenal.
They are so back.
They'll travel to the northeast to take on Newcastle, plus 145. Favorites are the Magpies. Arsenal plus 162, very slight road underdogs. It's essentially a pick 'em on the three-way line. The draw is plus 260. I think that this game, it's for the casuals. I don't really see much of a betting angle here. Anthony does. So before we dive into your neuroses, BJ, we'll start with Anthony and find out what he sees in terms of the line here.
I see a continually flawed Arsenal defense going on the road against an attack that's been very dynamic since adding Isak, and an attack that has been excellent at home, a group that is pressed with a ton of energy and caused problems for back lines that struggle with ball progression. And this Arsenal group without Saliba still is just not nearly as good. And you watched, the Chelsea match, which they played well and deserved to win, but a better attacking team would have scored 2 or 3 goals in that match. Chelsea had numerous odd man opportunities that didn't quite come off because they're really disjointed and not connected as an attack, and they have their issues. But it felt like Arsenal was very vulnerable whenever they lost possession, and that's where Newcastle's at their best. And this is not that different from what the Liverpool spot was a few weeks ago. I mean, Newcastle and Liverpool are similarly rated teams for me. I ended up betting Liverpool in that match, and so Newcastle is basically a pick 'em at home here. All the pressure on Arsenal plays against them, I think, in this spot. So I'm going to take Newcastle at home, pick 'em minus 115.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I was a neutral, I would probably agree with Anthony. I do have Newcastle projected around plus 125. So if you are a neutral, then yes, I do believe there is some value on Newcastle here. And the Arsenal defense, Kiwior was better than Rob Holding. And if you're wondering why Arsenal hasn't been playing him, is because he's also left-footed, which is a very awkward situation for them to play 2 left-footed center backs, especially in build-up play. So he's obviously a better ball progressor than Rob Holding is. So that makes Arsenal's defense a little bit better. But what I will say is that Arsenal, I understand it was with Saliba, but they had, a pretty decent time building up against Newcastle in the previous meeting. And I understand that Newcastle was good in transition, but Arsenal tilted the field on them. They controlled 66% possession. Newcastle only had a passes per defensive action of around 10, which, for the season, they're well under that. So this really just comes down to, and something we've been talking about with Newcastle a lot, is if you want to beat them and basically rip them apart, you got to play through their pressure. And obviously without Saliba, that's troublesome for Arsenal. But Zinchenko and Xhaka, both healthy, helps their build-up plays. Zinchenko's ability to invert in the middle of the pitch. That's how Arsenal's going to win this match. They got to play through Newcastle's pressure because, as we've seen time and time again, when Newcastle makes the match very, very transitional, they completely, like Anthony said, they're just an unbelievable offense. What they create over 4 expected goals against Southampton this past weekend. So 3.9 against Manchester United, who had major big-time struggles building out the back against them. But Arsenal does have the personnel. I understand they don't have Saliba, but everybody else on the pitch is able to play through that pressure. So if they're able to do that, they'll be able to put the ball in the back of the net, hopefully, in some transitional opportunities. But yeah, if I was a neutral, yeah, I would say there's value on Newcastle, and I would probably play them. But I don't bet against my team in a title race.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you look at just like pure underlying straight XG per 90. Like these two teams are pretty comparable for the season. Arsenal plays a style that's been more aggressive and more committing numbers forward when in tied game states. And so you're seeing that Arsenal has more wins and Newcastle has settled for some draws against lesser competition. And that's the reason for the difference in their actual point totals. And one team has run really well finishing. The other team's run about around their XG. So, like, relatively speaking, though, in terms of total team strength, there's not a huge gap here. Like, Arsenal is the better team for my numbers, but not that much better to the point where they should be a pick them on the road against a Newcastle team that's been dynamite at home. So,
one more thing I'll say too is that if you look through Newcastle's schedule recently, they haven't really played teams that can build out through pressure. And it's a lot of teams that play very direct and transitionally, the Evertons, Tottenhams, Brentfords, West Hams of the world. The two teams that they've struggled with and lost to, Aston Villa, they've had their issues through build-up play, but they build up through the middle of the pitch very, very well against Newcastle in that match. And then, of course, Manchester City, who's the best build-up team in the world, was able to play through them and create, 1.3 expected goals and counter press them very well. So that's what Arsenal's got to do. I'm plain and simple. They just got to be able to play through pressure.
We'll see if they can. And that pressure is twofold, not just on pitch.
And I will say, we have to say this too, is that we're recording in the middle of Manchester City and West Ham. So this one is about to get a whole lot more interesting, especially what happens with Leeds and Man City on Saturday if West Ham's able to hold on.
Yeah, so City is up 1-0 on West Ham here.
Oh, they just scored?
They did, BJ. I'm sorry
to
part.
They literally
rain on your parade.
All right, we can cut that part. Just go ahead and cut that whole diatribe from me.
All right. I'm glad you got it in, though.
I'm glad I did. Yeah, it was a fun like two minutes for me thinking like West Ham could hold on.
Nathan Ake scored. All right. Yeah. So that pressure is going to be twofold on Arsenal on the pitch and off the pitch as they try to stay with City. Full disclosure, we are recording this during Man City's match on Wednesday afternoon against West Ham. City is up 1-0 right now. So, in all likelihood, they will be a point ahead of Arsenal with a game in hand heading into the weekend. And City takes on Leeds, and that's where we'll go next. City hosts Leeds as a -600 favorite. City hosts Sam Allardyce's Leeds as a -600 favorite. Sam Allardyce, who says he's just as good as the best managers in the world, whether that be Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, Klopp, Sean Dyche, I'm sure he said in there. And you know what? I'll let Big Sam have it. At his particular skill set, he might be right. I could see his logic. While everyone else makes fun of him, I can see exactly what he means. Big Sam. Yeah, like I said, Leeds is 16-1 on the three-way line, and the draw is +650. These odds from Bet365. Holy moly! Marcelo Bielsa to Jesse Marsch to Javi Gracia to Sam Allardyce with this squad.
They smashed the glass around the panic button and they smashed it hard because this is your last resort here.
You got to do it though. I don't think it's like if you're going 1,000,000% all in on not going down, just do it and pay the man whatever the $6 million that he's owed if he keeps him up. I do think it kind of adds an interesting wrinkle here. Who on earth knows how this match is going to look? Like these guys have been playing a very different style for the better part of 5 years now. When you consider they were under Bielsa during their championship ascendancy, then the first year plus in the Premier League, then it was Marsch, who's like just a worse version of Bielsa, and then they've kind of slowly migrated towards where we are now. I mean, I'm expecting an 88% possession number or something from City. I might just have a little bit of a sprinkle on the Leeds money line as almost an emotional hedge because of Everton. But Lord, what do you think here, BJ?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on where you are too. It's like you're playing a certain style. It clearly Gracia comes in and it clearly didn't work. The 4-4-2 out of possession, compact defense. was not good for Leeds. It's the similar story with them. It's once the goal goes in the back of the net, all hell breaks loose. They don't have Tyler Adams to be that ball stopper in the middle of the pitch. So now Big Sam comes in, who is very similar to that of Roy Hodgson. It's 4-4-2, very compact defense. And now they're going to have to try to keep Manchester City out of the back of the net. I mean, Allardyce's West Brom, that's, the last time he managed a team was West Brom. I mean, they allowed 50 expected goals in his 26 matches in charge. And that was a team that was actually had a team that was set up to play this type of defensive structure. And they still struggle with that as well. So, I mean, this is a pass for me. I mean, maybe you'll take a look at under 3.5, which is now at even money. If that goes into plus 110, plus 120 range, I might have to have a sprinkle at that. But I mean, this is seemingly just a complete panic move from Leeds. And I mean, I get it. Like you got to stay up, and then you'll change things out in the off season. But doesn't look like things are getting any better anytime soon, and they're basically just hoping for some new manager bounce to get them through the end of the season. But it's a pass for me. I want to see what happens with Big Sam and Leeds. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it sure is fascinating. Because that's now 2 or 3 interim managers fired so far. I guess I don't know if you count Nathan Jones as interim manager, but definitely Stellini, now Gracia. Maybe Frank Lampard soon. It's insane the amount of manager turnover we've had this season.
Yeah, it's been banana land, and as I tried to tell Anthony a few months ago, that these people are not rational actors who run these clubs. So you never know what you're going to get. And Sam Allardyce managing Leeds, I don't think any of us would have got there in the preseason preview that we did. Anthony, you are a Big Sam guy. You always have been. You always will be. And you're going back to the well here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not pretty, but I think what Allardyce said was funny, but I don't think it's all that wrong. And if you think that the manager's job is to have a style of play and then to bring in a bunch of players or come into a team and then get those players to play your style, you can criticize the style. It is horrendous. It is quite terrible, but it could be effective. It's not quite what Gracia was doing. I think it'll be even more defensive and it'll be better drilled. The question is whether or not they have the talent to execute it. I don't know. That's the biggest question mark. With 4 matches to go, a shakeup, somebody from outside the club coming in, I'm willing to, for 1 match, ride it on this inflated number. So I'm going to split my bet between +1 first half and +2.5 full game, but both numbers just seem a touch high to me. And so City, I know they're going to probably win this match, but with Champions League look ahead as well, there's the potential that, De Bruyne rests a half or Haaland comes off if they're up a goal, that kind of thing, to focus on the Real Madrid match, which is coming up in 4 days after the fact. 3 days.
Maybe that'll be Allardyce's his next stop. If Ancelotti does leave, he'll be in the dugout at the Bernabeu. He would fit in La Liga.
Yeah.
All right, on to Bournemouth and Chelsea now. Chelsea, man, they're trending up. I saw that ESPN FC tweeted out a scenario where how Chelsea could get relegated this season, and I was just wondering if that graphic, which of course is absurd, it would require one of, basically a 1,000,000 to 1 parlay, but if it did cause some people to go and bet it just because they saw it. But nonetheless, 12th place Chelsea, 13th place Bournemouth, both on 39 points. We'll meet Bournemouth +250 at home, Chelsea +105 on the road to draw +240. Man, this is an easy pass for me. I just job done for Bournemouth. Chelsea's a goddamn disaster. So I'm just going to leave it alone, BJ.
Yeah, I'm more curious to see where this number closes at, because we've already opened Chelsea at -150. Then it came down to -115 before the Arsenal match. Now it's down to +115. Do they close as a pick'em against Bournemouth? I don't know. That would be crazy. I mean, in some sense it's crazy, but in the other sense, and I think this is something At some point these players have to have like Anthony said, they were okay against Arsenal. It's very disjointed. Like there's clearly no plan with Frank Lampard in charge. Like I've said this before, but under Graham Potter, Chelsea was number 1 in the Premier League in passes per defensive action. They were an outstanding counter-pressing team. They just couldn't finish any of those chances they had in transition. Well, now Lampard has done a different pressing structure out of a 4-5-1 out of possession, which has become very disjointed and very passive. And now their passes per defensive action is sitting around 12. So they've lost the one thing that they've been holding on to that's made them really good in transition. Now they have to come and break down a Bournemouth low block and also defend in transition and try to stop Bournemouth from creating these 1 or 2 huge chances. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. But if you're somebody just coming into this now, like I have Chelsea projected at plus 115, I don't think there's any value in the number as it currently stands. I have already bet Bournemouth plus a half at even money, way before this. But if Chelsea's a pick'em there, like I might have to stare at it for a second and really evaluate if I maybe will play Chelsea there. But I'm just interested to see where this closes and how bad this can truly get for Chelsea.
Anything here, Anthony, before we skedaddle?
Well, it's a good thing they fired Graham Potter, right?
Right.
They
Very
haven't won
smart
since.
move. Like, again, like Michael said, Anthony, these are not sane human beings.
They're not
that are running
rationalists,
these
they are
clubs.
It's
not.
sad. Look, you can't bet Bournemouth here. You could. If you want to bet Bournemouth, take them on the money line, right? And
reverse puck line.
That's my point, though. Like, look for alternates because, like, plus a half here is not interesting to me. Like, you're laying juice on it now, and it's like, okay, no. If Chelsea really has quit, the floor is the basement. So we don't know where the floor is, and it could continue to get worse. You're buying Bournemouth at the absolute peak. You're buying Chelsea at the absolute, or you're selling Chelsea at the absolute floor. So I can't recommend a bet on Bournemouth. But again, like I said, plus 300 out there now on Bournemouth. We said last week we're going to moneyline fade Chelsea every week and see how it goes. Brentford won, Arsenal won. Chelsea still has Forest at home. Might be an interesting number there. We'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna need old Frank to.
We're not going to get any value
his,
anymore, though.
Former club out there. If that one.
Gosh, and then do you see they close with? Oh my goodness.
They host Newcastle. They go to City. They go to United.
Oh,
so they will.
Bad.
This is their last 2 chances, really.
Yeah,
for a win. Although, the last day that probably will not mean anything to either team. But yeah, I have nothing here. No interest in betting the match. Can't bet the number.
What about any interest in your Tottenham Hotspur as a minus 125 favorite hosting Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace plus 320? The draw is plus 280. Palace on the beach. Congratulations to Roy and the Eagles for flirting with the fringe of the relegation zone, only to get out of that potential disaster pretty quickly. I would say it'd be Palace or nothing for me. I know BJ, you agree. I disagree, so I'll flip it to you. I don't want to bet. I don't want to bet Spurs.
Right. And
I think if Chelsea isn't going through what they're going through, we'd be talking a lot more about what Spurs is doing with no wins and a draw against United in their last 4 matches, which includes a 3-goal loss to 3-2 loss to Bournemouth, giving up 6 to Newcastle, and then 4 to Liverpool.
And I get it. It's not a pretty sight right now, but the number's getting very, very short on Tottenham here. And if we reach minus 110, I am going to have to fire on Spurs because, listen, Anthony, they've shown life. They haven't quit. I know the Newcastle match was bad, but they showed life against United. They showed life and had a great moment against Liverpool before conceding in the next minute. And the offense under Ryan Mason has been good. 4.5 expected goals in their last 2 matches against Liverpool and United. That's very, very good. If you even go back to the 4 matches under Stellini before that, they've created 9.9 expected goals in 6 matches. That is much better than it was under Antonio Conte. And Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson, they're so up and down, right? They have a huge match where they score 5 goals against Leeds, and then it's a 0-0 slog against Everton. And really what it comes down to for Palace is it's very game state dependent, right? They concede early to West Ham. The match becomes very, very bonkers, very transitional back and forth. And two things that Palace have not done well this season are two things that Tottenham are elite at. Palace is in the bottom 4 at defending crosses, and they're 15th in XG per set piece. They conceded on the set piece to open the match against West Ham. So those are mainly the two ways that Tottenham creates all of their chances. So I have Tottenham projected at -132. So if this gets to -110 or better on Spurs, I will have to fire on them. Because they're still battling for a European spot. Like the Champions League is probably done, but they are still very alive for a Europa League spot. Until Brighton comes storming back.
Anthony.
Yeah, I was encouraged by the second half at Anfield. And really, like, if you think about the week, okay, yeah, they got blown out by Newcastle, but then to come back from 2-0 down and 3-0 down against United and Liverpool, who are better teams, and play their way back into it with some changing stuff. I mean, Mason was trying things. The classic second goal that they made it 3-2 from Son was vintage Spurs. Kane coming deep, playing through him, getting Son in behind, something that Conte and company hadn't really done with this team in the last few months. So there's little signs of progress. They're still very flawed defensively, and but you're buying at the low here on Spurs if you do bet them here. So that is generally good. I can't get to Palace +0.5. I mean, we bet Palace +0.5 at Palace earlier this year.
Yeah, but
Now
that was
it's
before Roy Hodgson was there.
Right. But now it's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, these are very different teams.
Yeah, it's got to be Tottenham or nothing for me, though.
The thing about Spurs too is it's a weird spot, right? Like BJ, you kind of touched on they're alive for European places. Like I know they got to hold off Villa and they'll want to stay inside that top 6, but they played Newcastle, United, and Liverpool 3 games on the spin. That was their chance to really make a run. Now it's hosting Crystal Palace, and I don't know. It's a weird spot to me. But anyways, you guys like Spurs. I'm gonna stay away.
Well,
and
yeah, so even going back further than that, like it's been a tough run in here for Spurs. They've also had to play Brighton. They've had to face mighty Everton as well.
Bournemouth, yeah, they've
had the Milan. Yeah, they've had to face Milan as well. So it's like it's been kind of tough here for Spurs. So maybe
tell that to Crystal Palace, who had to go through the in order of the table 1 through 20 this season twice. Exactly. Wolverhampton and Aston Villa now. Wolves, I think we could say they're also on the beach. 37 points now. I think it's going to be 35 will be enough to stay up, barring one of these bottom feeders just to get good.
Was there a season-long point total 37? Or somewhere around there?
No.
It was lower
43.5 for Wolves.
43.5. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sweat. I actually did a tweet thread with all of the overs, unders, and the close ones a couple days ago. And Wolves and Palace are the two like true coin flips.
Yeah.
That are left. So Palace was 45.5. They need 6 points. Wolves need 7 from 4. And then Forest needs 5. So those are the 3 that are pretty close to their totals.
Okay. Wolves are +187 at home. Villa 140, +140 on the road. Road favorite Unai Emery's squad is, and the draw is a +230. I don't know. I mean, is there a less appealing match on the board this week than this one? I would say
no. This is it.
This has got to be it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't make the case for Villa to be a road favorite. This is a big derby in the Midlands. Wolves are, two teams who just adore and love defensive possession and doing nothing with the ball. But like the total's 2.5 -150 to the under. It's like one fluke and the whole thing
feels like
changes.
like a good draw bet, but I mean the way that and no matter what I bet in an Aston Villa match, the opposite will happen. So I'm not gonna go. Although I will say that their last few matches have been relatively, more low event, more like what I was expected.
I mean, they have been better defensively in the
Yeah.
last month. They did a good job against United overall, and I think you're seeing that Emery system is doing a better job here. And Wolves are not going to press at all, so maybe under a half alt.
Yeah, like I was gonna say,
Something
zero. This
absurd,
is
but
actually not a bad 0-0 bet, especially with the way Wolves looked against Brighton in that 6-0 drubbing for the Seagulls. Like I said, they might be on the beach here. I know it's a derby, but no interest here from a betting perspective. So enjoy it if you're in the Midlands, if you're in the Black Country. But for us, it's a pass, and we move on. Liverpool and Brentford at Anfield. Liverpool is playing right now. They were up 1-0 over Fulham, and they are -200 at the moment against Brentford. B's plus 450. The draw is plus 400. If we wanted to, we could just kind of clip what we say about Brentford every week when they're taking on one of these clubs, whether it's Liverpool, City, Arsenal, United, one of the big fish, and you could just clip it and we put it in here, save us some time. But we'll say it again: you just always want to be backing Brentford in these spots. What is pretty funny is that they were around this price against. I think they closed shorter than it. They took money against Chelsea. So that's crazy. But yeah, bees, baby. Like how this is the spot. This is the best spot of the week, I think.
I agree.
Anthony,
Sorry, go ahead.
what are you doing here?
I
I'm looking at the
have
sheet and I was just expecting to see Brentford, and you're on Brentford, but
yeah, I'm gonna take some. So I already bet both teams to score with BJ. He put me the alerted me on the bad line that we found. Follow us in the app. It was up for a while, a couple days, but that's gone now on both teams to score. It's up to -150. I know BJ still likes it there. I like first half team total plus 165, 170 are out there. I think it's a fun number to fade a team that has been really sloppy in transition, sloppy on set pieces, everything that Brentford does. You know, we had this exact conversation, what was it, 2 weeks ago for Liverpool, and like what kind of teams do they struggle with? And the teams that fit that description, West Ham, Leeds, Forest, Brentford, were all of the, the comparisonal teams. So Brentford fits that same group. West Ham created over one expected goal, could have had two in that match. And now Liverpool's at home, but this is still going to be a live opportunity for Brentford to go and do what they do best. So I like them plus 1.25. I like them to score in the first half. I think this is exactly the same two bets I made in the last meeting between them, which they won 3-1. So, the same flaws exist. Liverpool's attack seems to be figuring some things out, but I'm looking at it now. I mean, this is a very depleted Fulham team, out shooting them 11-7 after 70 minutes as we sit here. So I don't have the full match report, but no matter what happens in the last 20 minutes, a very lackluster home showing for the Reds.
Yeah, I like both teams to score. So I projected at -196. So -150 does still have some value. And it's just like what Anthony said. Liverpool's dead last in the Premier League in XG allowed per set piece against one of the most efficient set piece offenses in England. And they just, and the thing about Liverpool is, it's the big storyline with them is they've inverted Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle of the pitch, and it's completely unlocked Liverpool's offense. It's made them awesome. Before this Fulham match, they'd created 13.5 expected goals in the 5 matches where they've inverted Trent Alexander-Arnold in the midfield. And that's all wonderful. But that also means now Liverpool, who's already been bad in transition defense, is playing a back three. They're relying on Fabinho to drop back and be that transition ball stopper, which he just has not been this season. So it creates these just unbelievably chaotic matches with teams that are so good in transition. And Brentford fits the category as probably one of the best transition offenses in the Premier League outside of a team in the Big Six. Brentford, in 9 matches against the Big Six this season, have created 12.2 expected goals and 10 big scoring chances. Last time against Liverpool, they created 1.7 expected goals and 3 big scoring chances. So this match, I believe, has chaos written all over it, and I think both teams to score is far too low at -150.
On to West Ham and Manchester United. West Ham down 2-0 right now as we speak to Man City. They look relatively safe I think that they'll tell you they're not safe yet, but they're on 34 points from what will be 34 matches heading into the weekend, and will take on United here at home. The Hammers are plus 240. I think that they have an interesting schedule, West Ham, for the relegation battle, because it's United, and then they have a tough match against. Well, they go to the Conference League semifinals against Alkmaar, and then Brentford away, and then two relegation fighters to close out the season: Leeds and Leicester. Leeds will be at the London Stadium, and then Leicester will be at the King Power, so they'll be on the road for that one. Like I said, they should feel relatively safe in the spot that they're in, but this, even just a point here, is just gigantic, and I think David Moyes is really kind of adept at managing to those kind of situations, and I think that's how he'll set this team up. I don't hate a look on the under. I don't hate a look on West Ham. We've talked about it a million times. This is a team that's much better than their position in their standings suggests. They should not be fighting for relegation. They should be up there around where Chelsea is, or maybe a little higher, comfortably in the mid-table. United, BJ, looks a tad overpriced here. So I think the under and West Ham are the way to go. Those things I think correlate as well.
Yeah, it looks like Declan Rice and Soychek match against City with a stomach bug, so I assume that they'll be back for this match. We'll see, which is obviously huge because they're the center of their midfield. And so you saw Moyes today went with a 5-4-1 against City to try to clog up the middle of the pitch, and that's probably what he's going to do as well against Manchester United. And I agree. I do believe Manchester United is overvalued, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit, is that United away from Old Trafford just has not been as good as they've been at home. They're a minus 3.6 expected goal differential away from home. And, the type of matches where United is at their best is when teams come out and press them and they're able to get in behind and play in transition and create those spaces in between. Well, that's not going to happen against David Moyes' West Ham, who's one of the best low blocks in the Premier League. And it's a West Ham team that has been much better at home than they've been on the road. So, I have United at plus 148. So I do like the value on the Hammers at plus half.
And Anthony,
yeah, I'm a little worried just because of the spot, right? Like West Ham probably has to play their guys, but I'm going to wait and make sure they are before I bet them. I need Rice and Sochek in this game to really get what I think is the edge here, which is that West Ham has the better midfield. And that is true with the two of them in the game. Garrett being back would help as well for the defense. But at home, catching a half is a good number. I just bet it against Liverpool. I'm going to bet it against United. So just a lean for me for now. You'll probably see me bet it come Sunday morning, but waiting on some news there, because they could also be careful and opt to sit them knowing that they have this Conference League tie on Thursday. So I don't think they will, because like you said, they're not safe yet. But from a matchup perspective, these two teams played a pretty even match, the first matchup as well. So the Hammers at home catching a half, I think I've bet it a lot this year, and varying degrees of success. But we will be able to slow down United's attack and really keep United out of transition, which is what West Ham's very good at. So I like the matchup.
We should also note that, while West Ham and Fulham they're obviously avoiding Saturday because of the coronation of King Charles. We will have a London match going on in Spurs and Palace, so just keep that in mind. Work that into your numbers. There will be a coronation ceremony going on Saturday in London. Fulham and Leicester. This is fun, right? Like I love how this schedule has set up, because you're gonna have 3 huge relegation matches on Monday. They're staggered. It's gonna be an absolute joy to be me on Monday. Watch Fulham and Leicester at 10 a.m. Then watch Everton lose to Brighton at 12:30, and then Forest and Southampton at 3. I probably won't be watching that. I'll just be staring off into space somewhere. We'll start with Fulham and Leicester. This is basically a pick 'em on the 3-way line, even though it's at Fulham plus 162. Pereira is out for the rest of the year. Leicester coming off of a absolutely hectic match against Everton, where it finished 2-2. It could have finished 4-4. Could have made an argument 5-3 for either side, I think. crazy. Dean Smith, what is going on there? But defensively, I just think you can't really trust Leicester, even with the depleted Fulham playing for nothing here in the spot. So I'll be passing and just rooting on the Cottagers, Anthony.
Yeah, excited for this match. Don't really know what to make of all these injuries now for Fulham. Mitro, of course, still being out, but no Tim Ream now for the rest of the season. Pereira missing today, going to probably miss Monday. There's a lot not to like here. Two really bad defenses. I actually like Fulham more than Leicester as a team, but you're seeing the tax here you're going to get for a relegated team being a pick'em. So I'm going to pass on this one entirely, and I'm really tempted to play the under, but after seeing some of the defensive performances that Leicester's put in the last couple of weeks, it's really hard to get there. That game against Everton was really troublesome. Over 3 XG for both teams. This is a pass for me.
BJ, anything here?
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe a look at Leicester's team total over 1.5, which is currently sitting at plus 130. I mean, the Dean Smith offensive revolution, they've created over 2 expected goals in every match that he's been in charge so far. And he's playing a very open style. And it's something that Leicester's gotten better because now all of their attackers are healthy, right? Now Tielemans, and who's been out for a long time, and James Maddison as well. They have all these ball progressors available to go up against, a Fulham defense that, like Anthony mentioned, is going to be without Tim Ream. He's played, before the injury, he played pretty much every single minute for them. So his loss is pretty detrimental. And again, Fulham's on the beach right now. They have no attackers available. So if I were to target anything in this match, it would be Leicester's team total.
All right. Do you want to talk about Everton and Brighton?
Why not?
Brighton's minus 300 at
I'm
home.
actually excited for this one.
This is a good one.
7-1 on the road. The draw is plus 400, and I was I was actually pretty impressed with how Everton played against Leicester because they didn't look lifeless. I was kind of nervous after their previous couple performances there. A couple mistakes did them in. Calvert-Lewin does give them a much, just more, having a focal point of this attack just changes everything a little bit. And I don't hate the idea of James Garner if he gets the start, or Dwight McNeil, and then just parlaying one of those guys anytime assist with Calvert-Lewin, anytime goal, and taking that as a high upside play, because that's just going to be the plan here. But I don't know if they're going to be able to stay with Brighton in this match, and it's giving me all sorts of heebie-jeebies. Anthony, you do have some faith though.
Yeah, this is a spot I like for Everton. I like the matchup. Brighton wants to play open. Everton has been playing a more open style. And look, I'm sure Brighton is going to create a bunch of chances and score a couple goals here. I took both teams to score, and I took Everton plus 1.5 because I don't trust this Brighton defense nearly enough for me to lay the 1.5 with them on this number. We all talked against Wolves, where Wolves didn't really do much to disrupt the possession. They let Brighton walk into the final third, dominated the match, just scored half dozen on Wolves. But Everton are playing it differently. And I tweeted this on Monday, the defense has not gotten better. The defense has gotten worse under Sean Dyche. They're playing a very open style, but the attack has made a significant improvement. And this is something we've talked about, last spring when we did the show. When teams have little to play for, you tend to see the defense drop off. Games become more high event. Defenses are, you're not willing to put that extra tackle in. You're not willing to cover that extra ground to get back. The little things in energy and effort out of possession don't happen when you don't have as much to play for, which is kind of the case for Brighton here. And it's a major reason why I like Everton's attack in this matchup, a desperate Everton. So I'm going to take the plus 1.5 as well. I think it's a little bit inflated. So I'm going to take the Toffees to score a couple here and make this like a 2-1, 3-2 kind of game, maybe steal a result. But I don't trust Brighton's defense enough to get the margin required to lay a 1.5 here.
What do you think of BJ?
I think I'm going to play Brighton's team total over 2.5 at plus 130. It's a lot of the stuff that Anthony was mentioning there is that, Everton's defense has gotten worse because they're not playing a typical Sean Dyche type defense. This is something we've talked about many, many times, is they're trying to disrupt build-up play. They're trying to press high. They're trying to create, like Anthony mentioned, these open style matches where they can force these high turnovers. And Brighton is obviously a team that loves to bait you into pressing. And I was reading some interesting tactical stuff about, Brighton and their style of play, and what, De Zerbi essentially wants is he likes to build out in a 4-2-4, and he brings his two midfielders very, very close to that back line of four, and then pushes four attackers up on the back line. And what it does is it creates a ton of space in behind that first or second line of defense if a team decides to press, which essentially creates a very transitional type team for Brighton, even though in theory they're a build-up team. Everton hasn't been that good at disrupting build-up play. Like, they're not a Newcastle. They're not one of these teams that can actually do that to Brighton. So I agree with Anthony. I think this is going to be a very open style match. And Brighton is still fighting for a European spot. And the thing about Brighton, though, is that when you bait teams into pressing you, it becomes a very risky style. And you saw that what happened against Nottingham Forest is they gave the ball away twice in their own end, and Nottingham Forest put the ball in the back of the net twice. Even in the first 30 seconds against Wolves forced a high turnover and had a good chance to go ahead, and it didn't happen. And then, Brighton pounded them after that. So I do project Brighton right on 2.5 expected goals for this one. So I think it's a decent price, over 2.5 team total at plus 130.
And finally, another Monday Night Football match here between Southampton and Forest. Let's set up the relegation battle as we sit now. Leicester is on 30 points from 34 matches. They're in 16th. Leeds United behind them, only on goal difference with 30 points from 34. Same with Forest, who are in 18th. One of the three relegation spots. They will likely, if you look at this as a mini league between four teams, Everton, Forest, Leeds, Leicester, it looks very likely that Nottingham Forest will have the worst goal differential, and that tiebreaker could very well come into play. Everton on 29 points, they're a point back of all three of those teams. They have a better goal differential, or they have a better goal differential than Forest, and they're one goal back of Leeds. So just keeping this tidy for Everton also matters. That they cannot get blown out by Brighton here. But let's talk about Forest and Saints. Southampton is at the foot of the table, propping it up on 24 points. So they need a win above anything else to just even have a chance of getting out. It's almost a certainty they won't. They've lost 4 of their last 5. It looks really bad, but I do think that Forest is an even money favorite on the three-way line at home is a little rich, and I think you should get the best out of Southampton in the spot as they try their goddamn best to at least make their last few games or their next couple of games meaningful. It's ugly to close out the season for them. They got to play Brighton away and Liverpool, but Forest and Fulham coming up are winnable matches. So I actually like Southampton here. I think there's some value at plus 260 on the Saints. So I'll be back in them, BJ.
I agree. I think the price is far too high on Nottingham Forest here. And listen, if Southampton wins this match, they give themselves relative hope of survival. Like, it's not over for Southampton yet. And this is a Southampton team that's drastically underperformed this season. They have the same exact, actual goal differential as Nottingham Forest, minus 32, but they have a better expected goal differential than them. They're at minus 19.5, and Nottingham Forest is at minus 22.5. And this match is going to be very transitional. It's going to be very back and forth, end-to-end style match. And it's one that, between two teams that are essentially even, or with not, Southampton being very slightly better than Nottingham Forest, the price is far too high here on the trees, even though they've been better at home. So, I have this match projected pretty close to a pick'em. So, I'll take the value on Southampton plus a half at minus 125.
Anthony, 3 for 3.
I don't really want to. I agree, generally speaking, with the point. Given I think these two teams are pretty even, I would lean toward just the dog plus a half at any circumstance. But the goalie situation, is such a huge gap in quality and ability. Although, I mean, Navas cost me last week with the under, but the gap there is so significant. I know we talk about like regression for Bazunu and whatnot, but at some point, it's a really, really bad goalkeeper situation, and that's going to cost us a couple tenths of a goal, almost per match. So I have to pass here.
All right. Before we move on to the Bundesliga, I just saw a tweet that Man City just scored its 1,000th goal under Pep Guardiola.
Yep, 3-0.
That's something. All right, Bundesliga. You both have plays here. We'll start with Anthony.
Yeah, I'm going to take Schalke +1 on the road against Mainz. Look, I like Mainz. This is a Mainz podcast. You know, deep down at heart, we love Mainz, but their attack has not been nearly good enough to be laying this goal here. And I think that's going to cause some problems for them against a defense for Schalke that has made significant improvements under Thomas Reich since he came in. Mainz, 9th in XG per 90, 15th in big scoring chances. It's just not a team that gets consistent shot production and close-in shot production. They have one of the 3 or 4 worst average shot distances in the league as well. So this is a Mainz team that struggles to consistently create. They're a little inflated here. I was surprised to see that. They don't get the ball in the final third that much either, and Schalke's defense is enough to keep them in this. I took the +1, -125.
Yeah, I think Leverkusen in a look-ahead spot is a little overvalued here against Cologne on the road. I only have Leverkusen projected at +116. And, listen, Xabi Alonso has done a fantastic job basically turning around this Leverkusen club and getting them into a position where they could get back into a European spot. Obviously, the semifinal against Roma here, but Cologne is a very, very good team in transition defense, which essentially is what Xabi Alonso wants them to do. He's turned them into a very compact defense versus the very pressing, high-intensity style, and has made them very, very elite in transition. Well, that's where Cologne is at their best defensively. So I think Leverkusen is a little too overvalued here at home. So I like Cologne +1 at -125.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, you're paying the tax, right? So Leverkusen is not out of the picture for the top 4. They are 8 points back with 4 to go, but they have a couple head-to-heads here, so they have a chance to kind of make it up. It's going to be very hard to do that, but they are not out of the picture yet, but certainly a little bit of a tax on them given the must-win nature, whereas Köln is kind of just sitting in the mid-table with nothing left on the docket for them.
Anthony, you're the only one looking at Serie A this week.
Yeah, I think we got a chance for a little celebration spot here. Napoli, by the time you're listening to this podcast, may have clinched the league. Lazio did win against Sassuolo on Wednesday, so it comes down to Napoli on Thursday against Udinese. They just need a point. I expect them to get it. And then the celebrations are in store for Sunday. Could see some rotation. It's just a natural flat spot. I like the under 2.5 goals as they take on Fiorentina, who has taken real steps forward defensively under Italiano this year. We talked about how good their field tilt numbers were. They're not going to get dominated, and their defensive press is actually good enough to disrupt Napoli's possession structures anyway. So I like them to make this game a pretty coin flippy type thing, and I will be touching on them later on as well.
Okay, and before we get to our underdogs and best bets for the Premier League, BJ, Ligue.
Huge match in Ligue 1 this weekend. Lens hosting Marseille for essentially who's going to finish in second place in the table. And no, Anthony, it's over.
We're only 5 points back. Marseille is not yet dead.
Neither is Lens. But no, I think that the total here is a tad too low. These are two teams that are near the top offensively in XG. Marseille, the last 3 matches, have created over 7 expected goals against Troy, Lyon, and Angers. And it's a Lens defense that has overperformed drastically this season. Before the match against Toulouse, they had allowed only 21 goals of a 31 expected. So 2 of the top 5 offenses meeting in Ligue 1. I think we got a chance for some goals here. So, and I do project a little over 3 goals. So over 2.5 and -120 is good enough for me.
All right, on to the underdogs. Anthony was out this past week, but we're starting to close in on one. It feels like we've had a couple of close calls over the past few weeks, and I feel pretty good about this one. Anthony, you can go first.
Yeah, I ran the accounting for the season the other day on what we are As a group, we are 21-70, which sounds terrible, but we're actually up 21 units. So that's the beauty
How about
of
that?
the underdog. And that does not include any of like parlaying them together. That just includes like straight underdog bets, each individual pick that we give out on the show. So yeah, 21-70 plus 21 units with a month to go. I'm going to take Fiorentina 4-1. I just talked about the hangover spot, potential rest situations, celebrations in store all weekend. You're going to see them partying Friday and Saturday. You see this all the time with teams where they are hungover. They don't show up necessarily for the match. There are some risks with Fiorentina because Fiorentina is kind of just on the beach in the mid-table, worried about their Conference League match Thursday potentially. But again, like I said, the ability to have Napoli power rated as high as they are with a very questionable motivation spot puts me on Fiorentina, and that's the kind of speculative underdog I like to take here. So plus 400.
This one's pretty obvious if you've been listening. The key cog in our 200-1 parlay right before the World Cup was Brentford. They were 19-1 that day, but plus 450 at Liverpool. This team just punches up so well against the Big Six. BJ ran over the stats earlier in the show. They are live once again, even on the road at Anfield. They match up well against Liverpool. They've shown it in their 2 seasons in the Premier League. And although they're pretty much on the beach, as Thomas Frank has said, they just want to keep trying to set a record for, the highest finish ever for the club in the football pyramid. So I trust that they'll be ready, willing and able on the road at Anfield over the weekend. So give me the Bees once again. BJ, what do you have?
Southampton plus 260 Monday afternoon against Nottingham Forest. 2 teams based on XG who have been very, very even. Southampton actually being a little bit better than Nottingham Forest this season. So I believe the price of Nottingham Forest is far too high, sitting close to even money. So I'll take the price on Southampton at plus 260.
If you wrap those 3 teams together, Fiorentina, Brentford, Southampton, 98-1 to hit that parlay. So hop on that. I feel pretty good about it. All right, on to our favorite bets for the Premier League for this weekend. It's a huge weekend across the board. Title race for European spots, and of course the relegation battle. BJ, you can go first.
Yeah, Liverpool, Brentford, both teams have scored at minus 150. Liverpool offense has absolutely been cooking since they inverted Trent Alexander-Arnold into the middle of the pitch. It's completely opened up their build-up play. It allows Liverpool to compress 5 guys on the back line, create overloads in the box, which is why you've seen Liverpool create 13.5 expected goals in the 5 matches where they've actually inverted them into the middle of the pitch. But what that does is it also leaves them very, very vulnerable in transition, with Fabinho not being the ball stopper that he once was. It also leaves Liverpool with only 3 guys at the back up against one of the best transitional offenses in the Premier League. Brentford punches up so good offensively against the Big Six. In 9 matches against them, 12.2 expected goals created, along with 10 big scoring chances, including 1.7 in the previous meeting. So I have both teams to score projected at minus 196. So I love the value at minus 150.
I'm going to back Southampton as my favorite bet on the money line, plus 260 on the road at Nottingham Forest. I think there's a little bit of a tax you're going to have to pay on Nottingham Forest. Maybe the market just thinks that Southampton is going to lay down and go quietly into the night as the overwhelming relegation favorite. They're 6 points adrift, but they're not out of it yet. They're not done yet, and the difference between these 2 teams just is not wide enough to make Forest an even money favorite at home on the 3-way line. So a last gasp bounce maybe from Southampton. They can punch up a little bit. This is the spot. So Saints plus 260 on the money line for me. Anthony?
I also ran some accounting on our best bets for the season, 58, 59, and 4 plus 16 units. Does anybody want to guess who is in first place of the 3 of us in
It's
terms
Michael
of best
by
bets
a
accounting?
freaking long shot.
The answer is yes, Michael J. Lieboff, plus 9 units, and then BJ and I are right around 3.5 up for the year. So it's been a profitable year there. Let's keep it going. I'm going to take Newcastle. Draw, no bet, minus 115 at home against Arsenal. Cannot get to Arsenal being a coin flip here. They may be the marginally better team, but they are on the road. They have the build-up issues against Newcastle's press. They've been continually leaky defensively. They are not solving those issues anytime soon with the number of players they're committing forward, with the lack of ball winning in the midfield, especially if Partey misses again, which is certainly possible. So I like the Magpies at home. Draw no bet, -115.
Okay, well, here's to keeping up the profitable season for the show. Maybe we'll scratch out a 98-1 winner in the Underdog Parlay. Feels, like I said, feels good. But we will see you guys again for Champions League Monday morning. Until then, best of luck with all your bets. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, BJ. And thank you to Bet365.